Hello and welcome to Warcraft Daily for today the 11th of February 2014. So today's news is actually rather good. First of all, we have a long post and a bit of discussion on casting while moving, then some stuff about the whole phrase of at the cost of a raid tier, what it actually means and how some people have been misconstruing it, and then finally I'll just round off with some little miscellaneous kind of tidbits of information. First of all, let's talk about casting while moving, and more specifically, the large post that Lord put together on the forums. He said that it's something that's being talked about quite a lot going into Warlords of Draenor, and while he can't share specifics at the minute, he can talk about their mentality, and through looking at their mentality, you can sort of infer the kind of changes they're going to be making. He said that they like the idea of casting on the move, but definitely not by default. He cited Spiritwalker's Grace as something that actually worked out really well. If you use it at the right time, then it can be really strong, and that's nice because you're directly rewarded for a good decision that you've made. Lightning Bolt, however, is an example of something that's not good. You don't feel skilled while using it because it's always there. It's just a free bonus, and in Blizzard's opinion, that's not really a good thing in terms of gameplay, and I've really got to say that I agree. He then said that Kil'jaeden's Cunning is something that kind of fell in the middle. It's similar to Lightning Bolt in that it's always active and you don't have to think about it, but since you are giving up Malaroth's Fury or Archimonde's Darkness, there is at least a gameplay affecting decision in there. Still, if you do choose it, it's an always active thing, so the actual decisions that you are making from second to second in the game are not really as affected as they perhaps should be. He also said that the ability to use a cast time spell while moving is only a part of the issue. Many classes have got a wide and varying range of instants which can all be used on the move. And this is causing a lot of classes to feel very similar, and they actually want to cut down on the number of instants that are going to be in the game with Warlords, and that includes healers as well. It's funny, I remember back in the day, I'm not too sure what classes I was playing at the time, but I know Hunter and Warrior were involved, and when I think it was the Shaman I took out. It was whatever, yeah, it has Earthshock and things like that. And Earthshock and Fireshock felt completely unique and different. It was actually similar when I started out my mage. These instants were a wholly, new thing to me, and they felt really just kind of unique and cool. But now that so many of, the different classes have got instants that all behave rather similarly, it's kind of hard, really, to differentiate them, and they don't feel as cool and unique anymore. So I think that's definitely an issue. Now, also in regards to hunters, he said the mobility is basically the niche of hunters, and they don't guarantee us still being 100% able to do our full rotation while on the move, but they said that they do want to be keeping hunters very mobile. I think that's absolutely the right thing to do. Hunters are known for their mobility, and that's the thing that our class does well. Of course, I do actually miss some of the older elements of being a hunter. I'll talk about that later, but if every class was able to move and shoot and do damage like a hunter, then it would just be very bad for homogenization, and it would really just make classes feel a bit boring. But anyway, now for my opinion. So, a key part in nearly every game is decision making, whether it's which path to choose in a first-person shooter map, or which units to build in an RTS. Every game has decisions. In World of Warcraft, a decision that used to be more prominent than it is now is, do I cast now and risk being hit by something, or should I run and relocate? Actually, just a bit of a hint, you should probably run and relocate in nearly every instance. But anyway, by allowing you to do both, that decision hardly ever needs to be made, or at least it just needs to be made a lot less than it used to be. This takes a lot of the tension out of the gameplay, and it also lowers the skill ceiling quite a bit, and that tension really was important, and it actually was very real and palpable. When, you were nearly at the end of a cast, and Lord Marigar was bone storming towards you, did you want to move out of that instantly and take as little damage as possible, or just various things like that. Lord Marigar is probably not the best example, but anyway, you get the point. And Hunters actually illustrate this whole argument quite well. Back in the days of Wrath, the skill ceiling was far higher than it was now for Hunters. If you wanted to do good DPS, then you would need to stutter step. Now, what is stutter stepping for those of you who are not Hunters? Well, it's a maneuver where you would run forwards a few meters and then stop to fire some of your key abilities while having auto shot go off on its regular timer. We did have some instants, and those instants could be fired while you were on the move. But there were some things that you just couldn't fire while you were on the move. And then another issue with Hunters was that our auto shot, which is really just an ability that happens all the time, it's basically our white damage, that would only happen while you were stood still. And because you would maybe fire an auto shot off every 2 seconds, that would mean that you would stop every 2 seconds to let the auto shot go off and then you'd keep on moving. Now this was a skilled maneuver that rewarded players for, well, being skilled. It took a good bit of concentration as well, and it was very rewarding because you could see the positive effect on your DPS numbers. Now, I'm not too sure that this used to be the case for some other classes, but I'm sure that at least in some regard, a lot of classes did have more decisions and mechanics that were similar to the stutter stepping idea that Hunters used to have. Of course, if you have, I don't know, like a Pyroblast or something that's a 2-second cast time, then that's still kind of the same gameplay, and that's preserved today. Though in the case of things that are instants or perhaps can be cast while moving, well, they take away the fact that moving used to be a decision, and since it was often spurred on by the reaction to bosses' mechanics, it was a very fast-paced decision, and this is one that provided tension, and it gave just a little bit more weight to those boss fights. That wasn't just a thing on the ground, or that wasn't just like some sort of fireball. That was a substantial decision-making issue. If you were halfway through casting a really long, like 3-second cast for a really powerful ability, and then you had to break that because something appeared onto the ground, well, there's more gameplay going on there than just hitting the Q key to strafe out while still casting your spell. And that decision is now gone in many cases, meaning that the boss fights are going to cost less tension, which means the mechanics carry less weight, and overall, it's just not as good. Tension may not be ultra fun in the moment, but afterwards it's one of the many emotions that highlights the feeling of success when you do finally kill that boss. And this problem also homogenizes classes a little as well. The more classes that play the same while moving, well, the more classes that feel the same. That's a problem. And honestly, how can you get playing while moving to feel extremely different between classes? Anytime when a class can cast a spell while moving, it needs to feel different from another class. There needs to be some sort of gameplay drawback or tweak or something that has an effect. And really, this whole thing of multiple classes being able to do full damage or near full damage while moving is not a good thing, because we want classes to feel unique and different with their own strengths and weaknesses, and this is just another area in which classes cannot be different with their own strengths and weaknesses. If they do sort of keep on prioritizing this idea of classes being able to have multiple ways of casting while on the move. But the good news is, of course, they identified that this is a key problem, and they said that they're going to be changing a lot of it. This post made me really happy, and in regards to a lot of things, including this, it does feel like Warlords of Draenor is going to be a real return to form. With the combination of things like the button bloat, the way that they're merging some abilities together to make new ones that really have a lot of flavor and uniqueness to them, to the new talents, which are going to be sort of augmenting what we currently have and just making our classes feel different and unique. I just feel like Warlords is making a lot of great decisions. It's definitely fair to say that I am looking forward to this expansion a lot. So, next of all is not even a phrase. I shouldn't say that. Next up, we have the whole phrase of, at the cost of a raid tier, and this is probably a phrase that you've heard Blizzard people say before. For an example, say doing new buildings for every race for garrisons would be at the cost of a raid tier. And as always with statements, it turns out that a lot of people have been misconstruing this completely. And to respond to those people, Drexari has a few things to say. Basically, he said that this phrase is really just a handy reference to communicate the resources required to make something, and that's often the fact that people misconstrue. Basically, what they mean to communicate is that it's either feature X or less content somewhere else in the game. For example, do you want an extra set of garrison buildings, or do you want a new dungeon? Because for the art team, they are two tasks that maybe would take similar amounts of time, where one would take away from the other. The art team is not infinite, and things just take time to do. Now, a lot of people actually say that Blizzard should hire more artists, just like en masse, get all the artists so that they can get every single one of these intensive features done. And, well, first of all, it probably wouldn't get all those features done, and it would actually be kind of terrible. There are only so many good artists floating around in the world, and who are eligible to work at Blizzard. Maybe a lot of the good artists have got jobs, probably they do. So it's quite hard to get new artists, and new hires are something they need to be very heavily vetted. And there needs to be a lot of quality control with the people who are moving into Blizzard. They have very high standards when it comes to art, and if they start hiring second-rate staff, then the quality of the game as a whole would suffer. Hell, it could even cause problems. Imagine if a new texture or model skin wasn't up to snuff, and then someone would just have to go and redo the damn thing. Now that may be a problem that's not something we would see in the game. They wouldn't release one of those bad models, but maybe just in the development process it turns out that a certain piece of armor is delayed by a week because one artist fucked up 2 bits of the set. Things like that are actual legitimate problems, and the more that you hire willy-nilly, the more those problems will happen. Then there's also the idea of too many cooks ruin the broth, and that's especially true when it comes to an art direction, but I think Blizzard have really done quite a decent job of managing a good art style while still having a large enough team, so I don't think that would be the primary problem. So yeah, there you go. Blizzard are actually hiring, but they're hiring very carefully. And they are definitely hiring. We have had team increases of 40% year on year for the last 2 years, I think. I'm pretty sure that's what the number is. I know that they actually have a planned increase with Warlords as well. And the people who want them to hire ultra aggressively are just clearly not informed, and since they're not informed enough, it means that this opinion that they have is really not worth taking into account on the issue. Blizzard is only as good as its staff. If they start hiring mediocre staff, then elements of our game will become mediocre to the point where the game as a whole just isn't very good. And that is not something that I think any of us want to happen. So next, we just have 1 or 2 little miscellaneous things. First of all, there's a really interesting tweet from Watcher. He said the Mists of Pandaria scenarios and LFR will be available in Warlords of Draenor, probably from the Seat of Knowledge. And he also said that we will be able to zone in solo. So that's all very good news. You can go back and solo those old scenarios. Then next, in the Battle of Gilneas, he said that, well, not he said, Regarius, via the patch notes, said that they have reduced the HP of Gorot and Sylvanas. Why is this being done? Well, honestly, these guys just took so damn long to kill, and it was a pain in the arse, so it's nice that's fixed. Then also the damage of Black Fuse's Cell Swords in Venom. Yeah, the Black Fuse Cell Swords in Venom Shadow Step ability has been decreased on all modes, which should be nice for those of you who just want to get through that trash kind of quickly and get to the main event. Anyway, that is it for today's show. Thank you very much for watching. If you want to support the show and help out the channel, you can check out my Patreon page. Over there, I'll be doing just a weekly vlog for the people who kind of support on that, and then I'll be doing a twitch.tv hangout or something like that. It's more of a kind of private one. And honestly, it should be small enough so that we could do like a full raid or something every month. It's just a way to give back, and the reason I'm doing it is because there are a number of hardware upgrades, like say a nice camera, like a nice SLR, for giving you guys better video content, then things like soundproofing my room, just various things like that, which I honestly can't afford at the minute, but would help out the channel. Don't worry, it's not money that's going into, I don't know, fucking alcohol or something. So yeah, there's that thing. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.